I'm literally trying to get a billionaire for A2BCon 4, and like, I believe it can happen. Will it happen? I don't know, but I believe it can happen. And I credit that a lot to just saying, hey, most people don't go after what they want fast enough.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people want to be around a billionaire. A lot of people want to have a billionaire speak at their event. So I'm going to at least try. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Walk to Wealth podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube or any of the podcast directories, make sure to do yourself one teeny tiny little favor and make sure to give us a follow because I don't want you to miss out on any of the amazing guests that are coming on this year. Without further ado, we're back and we're in person now. This guy, if you've been keeping up with the podcast, I had him on my first ever in-person podcast interview. I'm not even sure what episode that counted as. Was that episode 100? I think that was.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Sheesh. And then I had him on virtually sometime last year around this time. So it's been a little over a year since you last hopped on a podcast. A lot has changed. But for anyone who hasn't listened to either of those episodes, give us your quick elevator pitch. Who are you and what do you do?
So my name is Brandon Gaydorus. I'm the founder of Warm Heart Life.
Yes,
and
sir.
I have a personal development company. And right now the current services and products are, there's a speaker school, and then there's a conference called the A2B conference. So it's all about going from point A, where you are right now, health, wealth, relationships, happiness, to point B in the fastest amount of time possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also do one-on-one coaching where people meet with me 30 minutes a week. And then I have just put out my 5th book.
Yeah.
So,
5-time author.
mm-hmm.
So a lot has changed since we last hopped on. So now we got the intros out the way. We can sit here and chop it up now. So Brandon, since we last spoke, you did 1, 2, 3, 4 speaker schools. You hosted a conference. You dropped a book. Just since the last time you hopped on the podcast, right? I think maybe 5 speaker schools. You've been speaking on stages, spoke in Canada recently. You've been doing a lot, man. So I guess just real quick, just bring us up to speed. Like, what's changed since the last time you hopped on? It's been a little over a year now.
Yeah, I think a while back, I've always loved mentors. I refer to mentors a lot.
Mm.
A while back, I asked my mentor why most people don't get what they want, and he said most people don't get what they want. Most people won't get what they want. Most people will lay in bed at that end of their life with the look of regret on their face because they don't go after what they want fast enough. So I've just always tried to attack things in a way that's sustainable. Yeah. So what's been cool to see from you is you've been able to sustain a calendar of events.
Mm.
And you know how that is. It's not the easiest thing because you see a lot of people, they have events and then they stop having events.
Yeah.
But I learned from another mentor that it's important to have events because it gives people something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And I kind of poured my heart into my first personal development event called Map Your Way to Financial Freedom. And because that happened, a lot of people were eager for the next one.
Yeah.
And then every time I would just continue. And so it was the same thing with the speaker schools. Like every speaker school, it's like, and then what happens is people want more.
Yeah.
People want more. People want more. So I've just tried to come up with a strategic schedule that can give me and the company the best chance of hitting the 2025 goals, 2024 goals. So this year, there's a lot of good things that happen, but my main financial goal, probably not going to hit.
Yeah.
My main professional goal, probably not going to hit. But I would have never expected all the things that are happening nowadays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I say that, I mean, I'm literally trying to get a billionaire for A2BCon 4. And like, I believe it can happen. Will it happen? I don't know, but I believe it can happen. And I credit that a lot to just saying, hey, most people don't go after what they want fast enough.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people want to be around a billionaire. A lot of people want to have a billionaire speak at their event. So I'm going to at least try. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. So that's why, to kind of come back to where the question started, that's why like all those things have happened, because each one of them is leading me closer to the goal.
Yeah.
Which is to have 10,000 student universities across 10 of the best cities in the United States. And someone was asking me today, they're like, Brandon, like, who are you looking for your event? I said, a billionaire. Like, I'm trying to get a billionaire. And this person sends me like 2 names of people that financially very successful, but not billionaires.
Yeah.
And this person goes, well, this one person is a billionaire, and they're not. They're not. You know, I heard this person on a podcast say that he was able to get to 100 million twice, but he struggled to get past that.
Mm.
And there's a big difference between 100 million and a billion.
Yeah.
And so why do I want a billionaire so bad for ABCon 4? It's because the 10,000 student universities, that's $1 billion in revenue business. So I need to start getting around people who think like billionaires, because there's a limited way of thinking that if I don't get around that right now, the big vision is going to really struggle to get there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of some of the things we're looking forward to in the future. And that's what's going through my head now, because a lot of people see these cool things and they're like, wow, that's so cool. How'd you do that? But, you know, now we're talking on this podcast right now. This is what's going through my head right now. Like, I got turned down from Ray Dalio 3 or 4 years. I got turned down from Paul Tudor Jones. And it was in a way where I feel like if he actually heard what this conference was about, he would definitely listen.
Yeah.
And then now I'm really trying to get, this is the main guy I want to get Brad Jacobs.
Yeah.
He wrote this book, How to Make a Few $1 billion. And I have this vision that everybody at the, I have a vision that I buy everybody a book who comes to the conference and they see this book, How to Make a Few Billions, in front of them the whole time.
Yeah.
And then they get to see this guy speak. And the entire conference, they're thinking bigger.
Yeah.
So will that happen or not? I don't know, but that's where we're at on October 22nd.
22nd at 3:24 p.m. and 40 seconds to be exact at the time. Jeez, you got a lot cooking up. You mentioned one thing about like goal setting. And one thing you touched upon is not hitting your financial goal, your professional goals. When you fall short of the goals that you set, what goes through your mind? And question number 2 to kind of go alongside with that is like, what kind of goal setter are you? Are you the type of person where it's like you need a big, hairy, audacious goal, crazy to even think about, crazy to even fathom and figure it out later? Or are you someone that is more of the, hey, let me get a quote unquote reasonable, because I feel like that word is subjective, but like a reasonable goal that I know I can hit and I can like really track. So I think there's a kind of, especially in the personal development world, there's like one case where it's like have the biggest goals you can ever think of at all, whatever you can fathom, that's your goal. And then there's also like, all right, let's have a more, approach that is more in line with the numbers that we're projecting and stuff like that. And where are you in terms of like goal setting? What's your process or thoughts around goal setting? And then the second question is when you figured out that you were going to fall short of the goals you set, like, how did that feel? Because I know it's very easy as an entrepreneur. Like, this is a lot of our egos attached into what we do as a business. And so like when we fall short, a lot of times, it kind of stings from a business level, but it also stings on a personal level as well. So like, what's your thoughts there?
Well, that's a great question. Honestly, phenomenal question. That's a question I'd love to ask a billionaire too. So the way I go about goal setting is I created a 10-year goal 3 years ago. 10.5-year goal. And so I had a personal goal, and then I had a financial, and then a professional goal that I created in 2021. And so the personal goal was to get married, love my life. And then that took a lot of pressure off of me because I knew I could start breaking that down into processes.
Yeah.
And then the financial goal was create $1 billion in revenue. And then the professional goal was to create the 10,000 student universities. So every year I break down where I need to be at to step closer to that.
Yeah.
And since it's such a big goal, there's so much in between that I just don't know. I can guess what the 1-year goal needs to be. I can guess what the 3-year goal needs to be.
Yeah.
But there's so much that I still don't know that it's constantly refining. But what I do is around this time, I take a lot of time to think, okay, knowing what happened this year, what do I need to do to put myself in the best position 3 years from now? and then 1 year from now. And so that's what I do personally, professionally, and financially. And professionally, there is a lot of stuff I could be hard on myself for, because of course it would be nice if the revenue was higher right now. But even though the revenue is not where I thought it could be in this short amount of time, I think the foundation is stronger than I would have ever imagined it to be, as far as the resources, the connections, the effect of the Warm Heart community. So like, I would have never guessed I would be in a middle school all year. I would have never guessed for 2 years in a row we could take our elite speakers to a school and bring a big time celebrity guest that we're sitting right 2 rows in front of a sold out show at the Barclays Stadium, and she comes to school with us. And so those are things that like I would have never expected. One of my goals was to have $100,000 month, and kind of towards the beginning of the year, before I refined it, it was to have $100,000 deal. What's cool is I went up to Canada. I spent 2 days with a company for a corporate communications program, which is like a speaker school, but for more the business side. Yeah. And so I went up to Canada. I worked with this company for 2 days. And then the guy meets with me at the end, and he says, let's schedule time for next week. And let's hear where you want to go from here. Yeah. And so this weekend, I came up with my first actual, like, this makes sense to me, and I could see how it could make sense to the company. Whether they said yes or not is irrelevant. It was the first time I actually could see $100,000 deal happening. Yeah. And so you could say, well, it's not a win because you haven't gotten a $100,000 deal. Well, it was the first time I could actually see it actually making sense on both sides. Like, I believed that I could make sense of it both sides, but this was like, I had like, this is what I would do on a weekly basis. This is what they would get. This is how we would go about this. This is the amount of times I would go up there to spend time each month. And so it was cool. It was cool to be able to see that. And, employees wise, of course, I would like to have a bigger team right now, but I'm so focused on maximizing what I can do to be able to scale faster. And I could start to see the effects of that because I'm becoming a lot more efficient. I'm getting bigger deals in front of me. My schedule is filling up very easily. And I was telling you, I said, this is the first time in a while where it's just like 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., just like 3 days straight, just packed. So it's just kind of one of those things. You can feel momentum. Yeah. And so Jim Rohn, he says, set goals that will make something out of you from the person you become along the way. And that's how I kind of look at goals. Am I becoming a better person? Am I becoming closer to where I need to be? And the answer is yes. And personally, I'm nailing my goal this year, which is to write 365 gratitude cards. Yeah. So I'm almost done with that. And I felt a lot of the effects that have come in from those this year. So that's been good. And then right now I go into the planning season, September, October, November. I really spend a lot of time thinking, okay, what do I need to do based on where I am right now to make sure that I can attack 2025 and continue to set myself up for the 2031 vision. Yeah. So that's how I look at it. Short-term, long-term, personal, professional, financial goals. If I don't accomplish it, I try and figure out, okay, what needs to be done to become better and meet me where I'm at right there. And if I do accomplish it, like Jim Rohn says, celebrate.
Yeah, no, that's a good. I heard somewhere, I think on a podcast, where like how most planes are actually off course for like the majority of the flight. And they still end up at the very exact location, need to be the exact landing strip at the exact time that they need to land every single time, despite being off course. So it's like a constant process of like just realigning. It's a quote, right? It's like failing to plan is planning to fail. And so it's not a plan that gets you to success. It's the act of planning that gets you to success. And for a lot of people, it's hard, right? Like me included, it's kind of hard. Like I was just talking to Rob too. It's like, we're doing something right now. It's like, we don't know if this is like the long-term thing. Like for me, AI kind of fell on my lap, right? I was teaching social media to real estate agents and found out about ChatGPT and ended up just being an early adopter and ended up creating a class on how to use ChatGPT. And I was like, oh, there's an opportunity here. And that kind of ran with me. And so like long-term vision, it's been kind of hard to like try to look out further than a year, just because like I don't even know if this is something that I want to do for the podcast. It's a bit easier. Walk to wealth, the mission I have going on with this, like I can visualize this. Just this isn't my business per se. So my main focus right now is growing the AI stuff, primarily just because like I don't want to mix joy and work too soon. And the moment I start treating this like a business, I'm gonna have to go about it a very different way. And it may take a lot of the joy out, which is one of the reasons why I didn't want to play football in college. Just because aside from financial aid, like not being good at D3 or D2 school, non-existent at D3 schools, I was like, I got to go where the money is because my grandparents don't have the money to afford college.
Yeah.
And so, but I knew if I were to play at that next level, it would have been a job and it would have been very different than how it was in high school. So for me, I want to really grow this AI thing, but it's hard to like see that far ahead, cast a vision that far ahead. So like for anyone that's listening, and me included, like how are you able to visualize so far out sometimes? Because I mean, just a couple of years ago, we had a pandemic and no one could have seen that coming. So it's like life was always throwing curveballs. Life is always, unexpected things are always happening. It can be hard at times to see further than even a few months, right? So like, how do you cast your vision to like start visualizing further ahead and kind of get a picture as to the direction you want to go at least?
I think that's a great question. And I think it's an answer that just sounds so blunt.
Yeah.
So I'll give examples, but for me, it was always seeing greatness allowed me to see further ahead. And when I could see greatness, I could see where I could be. And if it interests me, then I knew I could pursue that. And so my mentor, he taught me, he said, look at things in 5 to 10 year increments. He says, stop worrying about what you want to do the rest of your life. What do you want to do the next 5 to 10 years? Attack it. And so that really took a lot of pressure off me as I came up with this big vision. But when I was younger, it was seeing that person who was in a position that I wanted to be in. So when I was 18, I worked at a golf course and I thought I was going to be a golf pro. I worked at a golf course and my pro was one of the best players in the country.
Yeah.
So like from a club pro, so the person who works at a golf course, actually playing wise, he made 2 of the biggest golf tournaments the entire year. Like that's on TV that the top pros are in, like the Tiger Woods. So he made 2 out of the 4 of those the summer I was there. And it helped seeing that because I realized that wasn't where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So seeing somewhere where I didn't want to be helped save me time to find something else. So a lot of people think it's like, oh, okay, I just have to see greatness and then I got to go after that. No, like I see greatness in a lot of different ways. And a lot of times it helps me understand that's where I don't want to go. And so after that, I started pursuing the fitness side and I would go to like these seminars in like Orlando and I would start seeing these people and I would be like, okay, I want to learn how they know that. I want to learn how they know that. And then I could kind of start reading about the people who were like speaking on the stages I would speak at. Like, well, most people, I was talking about this with someone the other day. A lot of people, they want to speak on my stage, but they don't want to attend. And I'm just like, I'm not going to make you attend. Like, all I'm saying is that if you want to speak on my stage or any stage, if you attend, you're probably going to have a better idea of what you need to do to be able to get on that stage. And so my first big stage I spoke on, I was 26 years old. It was my dream stage at the time. And I had seen that stage since I was 18.
Yeah.
So like, I didn't have a big financial goal. That was, as I looked back, as I kind of transitioned into the personal development field, the main thing I look back is I didn't really understand finances. Like I thought making 100,000 was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And, but I saw different things. Like I saw that stage and I was like, I knew I could be on there someday. And so I would go there every year. I went there 8 years in a row from 18 to 25, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 8 years in a row. I sat in the audience at that stage. I paid for the gas money. I paid for the flight, paid for the hotel, paid for the stay to go to that stage and just sit there in the audience. And what I would do is I would listen to what the speakers were talking about, follow them on social media, and then I would start implementing the stuff that they said to do. And so by seeing that stage, I had some sort of a motivation to want to be on that stage. And so that was one thing I saw when I was younger. And then I just started learning I went to shadow Binghamton University, where I'm from. And I was in fitness, and I shadowed their program during winter break when I was visiting my parents. And the lady goes, "It's too bad you're not here during the season where you can really see what this is like." She said, "If I were you, I would reach out to the big 3 schools in Carolina where I went to school." She said, "I would reach out to the big 3 schools and see if you can shadow them." UNC, North Carolina, NC State. I said, "Great idea." So next thing I know, I'm in Duke University spending the entire day with the Duke University strength and conditioning coach of the men's golf team, among other sports. And I remember being there that 6 a.m. session or whatever it was. And he huddles all the guys around and he says, "Hey, I want you all to just be grateful to have people like Brandon who want to see what we have going on in our program because they believe in it so much. I want you to introduce yourself to him, make him feel welcome, and let's have a great workout."
Celebrity status.
Here I am, like a 20-year-old college kid. All of a sudden, I'm seeing one of the top golf programs in the country. I'm seeing facilities at Duke University that just blew me away. And I'm like, holy crap. So I could start to see maybe I want to be there. And that guy told me, he said, I worked at this gym, which has probably the best internship program in the country. So what did I do? I went and interned at the #1 gym in the country my junior year. Exactly where the guy at Duke interned. So, and then I saw a guy who had just won the World Series with the Red Sox the year before. Like he was their strength and conditioning consultant. So now I'm seeing a guy who's in his 50s, who's one of the most successful strength and conditioning coaches in the entire country. Literally, the USA Olympic girls hockey team is right next to me. Professional hockey players, football, golf. Like you're seeing some of the top high school and college athletes in the entire. I'm seeing that for the whole summer. And you would think, oh, it's great. You see the athlete. No, I saw greatness in the work ethic of the interns. Those interns, the ones who really work, those interns push me. I'm like, man, I don't want them to work harder than me. So one of my mentors actually had to say, "Brandon, I notice you're showing up at the morning session and then you're staying until we close at like 8:00. He's like, "You're not getting paid for this internship. Like you don't need to be here 12 hours a day." Yeah. But I was like, I'm here in Boston. I'm, trying to do whatever I can to get the most out of this experience. And so I started showing up a little later after that because he kind of told me, he's like, "Hey, like make some room for some of the other interns." But like, I knew if I could just kind of see greatness, it would guide me in the right way. So like even that internship, I said, "Hey, I'm going to come up a month early. Can I start early?" They're like, "Yeah." So for 4 weeks, I'm the only summer intern who's there. And so I already have a month of experience before all the 25 other interns get there. And so I was inside of a lot of conversations that a lot of those other interns probably weren't. And it's not their fault, but I just said, "Hey, can I come up early?" And it turned out they needed me because all the spring interns were leaving. So I think that's what really helped me. And then in business, I'm 23 years old and I go to one of my first like real business conferences in the fitness world as an actual adult. So I would go to the cocktail hours and I would make friends with the sponsors. And there was one day where I asked one of the sponsors, I said, "What do you want to drink? I'll get it." And he looks at me, he says, "Brandon, you never buy a sponsor a drink. What do you want?" And he bought me a drink. I took them all out to see the town of Stamford, Connecticut. And still to this day, I have such a good relationship with all the sponsors who were out that day. And the next day, they invited me to dinner with the host of the business conference. And so I walked in late because I actually went home to change. And I walked in like 20 minutes late, and the guy who was hosting the conference goes, "Dinner's on the new guy."
I remember this story, I think.
Yeah. And he says, "Dinner's on the new guy." And so I'm like, all right. And I'm 23 years old, and I had one credit card. I just had one credit card to my name. I didn't have debit card or anything.
You weren't Mr. Mendez at this.
I wasn't as smart as this guy. And I just thought they were joking.
Yeah.
There's like 11 of them, and we're at the Capitol Grill. Capitol Grill, if you don't know what that is,
Pretty pricey.
So I'm just playing along with it. The bill comes at the end of the night. They put it right in front of me, and I'm looking at this thing. It's like wine, steak, everything. It's basically $100 a person. I think it said $1,150.
Sheesh.
And I'm like, shit. Because my credit card only had $1,000 limit. So I just said, you know what? Maybe they can charge whatever is on there, and then I could go to my bank account, reset it, and maybe I could split it into two. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I just put it in there, and I just went like this, like I was playing a bluff in poker. And they all look at me like, did this kid just do that? And I said, yeah, you know. And so a couple of them grab the bill and they look at it, and they kind of pause for a second, and then like 3 of them put their cards in and they throw my card back to me. And but I remember that moment so vividly, that seeing that motivated me to want to be able to do that someday. And so when I had my first conference, I think the bill was like $3,000, and I was so excited to be able to pay that bill. And then the next year I think it was like $5,000, and I was so excited to pay that. And then the next year it was like 18,000, and I was like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah,
taking care of
the card.
And so a lot of people hear me tell the story about the top 10 rule or about the universities, but it's kind of just in all aspects of life. And some of those were shorter term things. Some of them are longer terms, but like being able to see that really motivated, because I didn't grow up going to steakhouses. Like I didn't know I barely even knew what that was. I thought like Outback was like the only steakhouse in the world. I didn't know there was like these high-end Morton's, Capitol Grills. And so being able to see that, experience it, see how people don't even look at the price at a place like that, it motivated me to want to really try and figure out, like, how do you actually not just get enough money to afford this, but to just be like, screw it, let's go. Let me get that. Let me get that. Let me get some of that. Yeah, some of that too.
Yeah.
You know?
I think I was talking to somebody about this. It's like life is like an infinite multiple choice test. And there's like kind of 2 ways to go about it. There's like, all right, what's the answer? Right? And I think it's a lot harder to figure what it is, especially earlier you get into entrepreneurship, the earlier you get into business. For me, one reason I always tested super well in high school, a lot of it was multiple choice tests. So I always figured out what wasn't the answer. And you showed examples for both, right? A lot of times, not figuring out what you want to do in life, just figuring out what you don't want to do. 100%. And figuring it out as fast. You said, I've always been quick to attack things, right? It's just like, I think speed solves a lot. And you mentioned it in your public speaking, but it applies to life as well. Like speed solves a lot of problems. And not a lot of times, it's the fastest person that wins, not the best person, not the smartest person, not the hardest working person. A lot of times, just the first. You gain a lot in life just by being an early adopter. My whole business on AI and becoming the AI guy, I wasn't an AI programmer, a developer, a software engineer, computer scientist. I just taught the ChatGPT class, and it just so happened to be the first person to do it. And so it's like that helped me then turn that into a business where now I'm speaking and talking about it. But it's like I tried real estate investing. I tried being an agent. I tried running an agency. I've tried so many things and figured out what I didn't want to do, and I'm still figuring out what it is that I want to do. It's kind of why I asked what your thoughts about goal setting, and the kind of through line I heard from you as you were speaking is just like putting yourself in more opportunities allows you to navigate through life a lot easier. A lot of people try to figure out what it is they want to do from the comfort of their own home. It's like, yeah, you can do that, but then it's all hypotheses and theories, right? And hypotheticals, where it's like, or you can put yourself out, try new things, put yourself out there, go to the conference, go to the dinners, right? Go to the events. And the next thing I heard from while you were speaking is like showing up then leads to more opportunities. And so I was talking to, I don't know if I told you, I mentor UConn students. Each semester I do I get mentor like a student or two. You do like 2 calls and whatever. Now I had a first call today before I interviewed Rob, and I was just talking to him, and they're just like, bro, a lot of luck is just showing up with whoever's there. Like if you show up the most, you're most likely going to be the most top of mind. And it just so happens that one day, let's say you're a carpenter, and they need a carpenter. Well, John always shows up, right? They need an AI guy. Well, John always shows up. A speaker guy, Brandon always shows up. It's just like a lot of times you just got to show yourself up, show up to the opportunity. And then the next thing I heard too is jokingly is confidence goes a long way. You putting your card down despite knowing your card wasn't gonna probably go through, right? It shows a lot. I think when you're young and you're getting into business, you're getting into this world of entrepreneurship. It's like a lot of respect is giving just by showing up, and then even more so when you can even though you technically at the time you couldn't back it up, but they couldn't tell the difference. It was like, hey, is he gonna swipe the card or not? I don't know, but hey, let's. And then they gave your card back, but it's like a lot of times it's like people see someone young, hungry, getting after it and willing to show up when it's like, hey, is this what it costs? And they'll pour into you and you'll get so much more opportunity from that. And that's been the case in my story. It's like everything I've been able to do, it's just like I known someone that gave me opportunity and I just made the most of it and continue to make the most of it each time. There's something you said earlier too that I wanted to touch on. About speaking on stages. I don't know if you remember my advice I gave towards the end of the day, but I was pretty much saying public speaking and one of the best ways to get your business out in front of a lot of people, right? And convert complete strangers into paying clients in the shorter amount of time. Mm-hmm. You get a lot of trust, a lot of rapport just from speaking on the stage, right? And so a lot of people want to get into it. A lot of people, and a big problem, as you said, a lot of people. And I get pitched all the time to this day. And I've seen so many pitches just from people hopping on my podcast. I mean, wanting to hop on my podcast, it's like their entire pitch is so self-centered. It's like, hey, I'm this, list a bunch of credentials. Here's a couple topics I can talk on. And let me know if you're interested in having me as your guest. And it's like there's nothing in it that's personalized, nothing in it. And a lot of times these people are reaching out through some sort of agency or through some sort of admin or a freaking person. It's like, I'm not even talking to the actual person. Yeah. And you're sending me this templated pitch that you probably send every other podcaster in entrepreneurship. It's like, I don't want to have you on. I'd much rather go talk to the same people than talk to someone that I didn't know and probably will never speak to ever again once just for a podcast. And it's just like connections for me have always been a big thing. I'm very slow to let people in. I've been I always got my head on a swivel when I'm in an event where I don't know who is attending. I go in, I like vantage points, I like being corners, right? Because I can see the whole room, I can see who's talking to who, how is everyone interacting, how everyone is engaging and stuff. And then make my way. I feel like you gravitate towards certain people. And if you could just sit still and listen to that, you can hear and see where you're being pulled towards. And that's always worked out for me. And that's kind of been in terms of connecting and meeting opportunity. It's just putting myself out there and not being so hasty to be in everyone's face, seeing all right, who are the people I genuinely connect with them, go deep. And then from there, when opportunities do present themselves, it's I just jump the gun and just act and go all in. And that for the most part has been one of the biggest things for me. That I think overall, and I want to hear your thoughts too on this. It's when it comes to even regardless of whether it's hopping on somebody's stage or just hopping on somebody's podcast or just having a conversation and connecting with someone, what's your thoughts? Because you hear all these times, especially in sales, like the more hands you shake, the more money you make and stuff like that. And it's like, yes, it's true, but it makes relationships seem like very transactional in a way almost. It seems like you're only shaking hands so to get something out of it. And I mean, and I'm not saying one way is right or wrong. I'm just curious to hear, like, what are your thoughts in terms of like when it comes to connecting with people, collaborations, especially in this world of business?
Do you want to be a giver or a taker? The givers are always going to be the people who have the things that person wants. They're going to lean to first. A taker is someone that, they may give once, but then they never want to give again. You know what I mean? So a perfect example, John knows how much work goes into A to B Con, and he says, hey, Brandon, I can help you out with the site this year if you want it. I said, sure. And John sits down with me. He helps me go through the whole thing. And I said, John, you know what? I would love to spice things up a little bit this year. And I feel like every year me and Carl give keynotes. But one of the most valuable things that me and Carl have done is collaborate together. And you have seen this over the skid of probably about 3 years. And you're one of the best interviewers I've seen. I said, hey, what do you think about maybe sharing a quick story on stage and then interviewing me and Carl revolved around collaboration? And he says, yeah, man, whatever you need. But that's a perfect example of a giver. And so many people are takers. They want. And it's just, the givers are always going to win. It may take a while for the giver to win, but the givers in my mind are always going to win it. And this is a simple concept, personal development, perfect example. And this is a stage that so many people ask me to get on because they know we're going to get people coming in from all over the country. They know we're going to have 2 to 3 really, really big names there, among many other really amazing people. And so it's one of those things. If someone brings people to the event, I'm going to be a lot more likely to want to create an opportunity for them. So it's just one of these things. It's like, do you want to be the giver or do you want to be the taker? And every one of you is going to say, no, I want to be the giver. Well, do you really? Maybe start practicing it. So one thing that I started practicing this year, because I felt like I was being a little bit too much of a taker last year, I said, you know what? I'm going to focus on sending one gratitude card out a day. And so now I'm on probably about number 300, close to it. And I felt like I've been more of a giver this year. And because of that, I've been having a lot more opportunities come in. And I think this is my best revenue month I've ever had. So we'll see. Yeah. We'll see how it happens at the end of this month. But it's certainly trending like it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think a lot of people don't understand how much you have to show up first before opportunity comes to you. And a lot of times you're just not expecting anything in return. I don't know how many times we've collabed where I've come to your events or you come to my events. I went to your speaker school. You hopped on my podcast. We've done at least maybe 15, maybe professional, I guess you could say, collaborations, and then gone out for drinks. God knows how many times since, especially this past year. So it's but that started from years ago. And it's you find people that you connect with and you just help out. And for me, one of the reasons too I wanted to reach out and help out with A to B Con is because I got something cooking up. Nothing official yet, but I got something cooking up. And so part of the reason was helping other people can help you get further. And so it's I want to help you with A to B Con because I know a lot about funnels and stuff like that. And I've had someone professionally build my funnel and stuff like that for my challenge and stuff like that. So I was let me apply some of the things that I learned and paid for and do it to Brandon, so you can get some more conversions, start getting people to buy tickets through your site directly. And then also it's kind of see what it takes from the back end to even put something like that together. Because ideally, as we talked before, I'm trying to put something together like that. Whereas yours is thinking is personal development. Then I have coming in with AI and marketing. It's this is the best of both worlds. Now you're in the right headspace, and then you end the year with tactics and strategies and stuff like that. And so it's and plus no one else locally is talking about AI or marketing. So, I mean, AI specifically, a lot of people talk about marketing, but no one else is talking about AI. It's like, there's something there that I can do. And I have a bunch of ideas, but it's like, I don't know how to structure it or organize it. So it's like a high tide raises all ship type of thing where it's like, I'm helping you out. I was going to attend regardless. So it's like, I was already going to be there. So, it's how can we all grow? And especially be it that it's my hometown, you live here, it's like, it's even more support. It's like, I already know how hard it is to get, support in your hometown. All my connects were all virtually long before I got my first in-person gig for anything. It was maybe I started teaching, my first social media class was February of 2022. I didn't get my first in-person gig locally for anything until August of 2023. It's like, it takes a lot of time to get your love in your hometown. So dope to see it. So, Brandon, man, time has been flying, bro. Where can we keep up with you? Where can we connect with you? Where can we find all things B Doggy Dog, Brandon Gaydorus, Mr. Warm Heart Life, Mr. 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, Mr. A to BCon 2025? Where can we keep up with you? Where can we find, all your links?
So Brandon Gaydorus on all social media sites. My last name, I've never met another Brandon Gaydorus. That makes it easy for social media. And then my phone number is 607-348-6136. Text or call me if you want to be in touch.
All right. And so normally I finish off the podcast. Everyone knows the famous 5 questions, but you already hopped on the podcast and answered them. So we'll come up with a curveball question on the fly. All right. Here's what we're going to do. I don't think I ever really asked you this question before, both on a podcast or off a podcast, but let's do it like this. If you lost everything but kept the business knowledge that you know now, would you still go with Warm Heart Life? Would you still go like with what you're doing now? Like, how would you start off? If you lost all your resources but kept all your knowledge, how would you get your business off the ground now? Because you've done a lot. You've thrown conferences, you've thrown events, you've thrown workshops, you've spoken in schools, you've spoken in corporate offices and other conferences. You've done quite a bit. This is like, you met a lot of people. And so you learned a lot.
So you lost all the people connections?
All the people connections, all the money, but just everything you know.
I mean, it's easy to say, yeah, I would. I probably would, but I don't know. There's just people I met along the way that have excited me to do this even more. Like you, Carl, Rob, like just all these people. My mentors, Robert Koenigsberger, Thomas Plummer, like there's just so many people that inspire me to keep this vision going. So if I lost all those connections, I don't know. You know, I wish I could say yes, but I will tell you this, like I heard this advice from Grant Cardone once that really helped shape my perspective on taking shots. So, and why I may actually if I lost all the resources, all the money, all the connections, all the momentum, why I still may actually go after this is because Cardone said, he said, there's kind of 3 phases of wealth. First, be able to make and retain $100,000. He said, if you can do that, you'll prove to yourself money will never be an issue. And so I just focused on that first stage for a while. Once I made $100,000, I actually didn't spend it right away. He said that the second phase is spend it so that you can get the business cash flowing. So on the marketing, on the resources, anything that you can so that you can get that cash flowing. Because if a business is cash flowing, especially positively, like it would need to be in that case, then you have this excess of money where you can put into things that give you passive income and tax benefits. So those were kind of the 3 phases: make and retain 100,000, then spend that to focus on getting your business cash flowing. And then once the cash flow is coming in, put that into resources that give you passive income and tax benefits. So that simplified wealth to me. We're on the Walk to Wealth podcast. So that really simplified, okay, this is what I need to do. And when I made the 100,000, I shied away from spending it, and I would start to see it go up and up. And I think it got all the way up to 150 before I was like, you know what? I know what he means here. I just need to start spending it. And that's when I started taking all these big shots. And that's like A to BCon 2, I spent like $80,000 on that event.
Yeah.
And I did not get $80,000 back. And let's just put it this way. We sold very close to the amount of tickets that I wanted to sell. But I partnered with a theater for the second part of it, which was not titled A2BCon, but in my mind, so many things correlated where that
made sense.
Yeah. And so that's where I actually lost a lot of money, was on that, not so much the actual A2BCon. But I was okay with losing money there because I knew I needed to figure out a way to get the business cash flowing so that other opportunities could start happening in life. So because of that, I do feel like if I lost all of the money, I would still be doing this. The resources, I think that would make me kind of rethink that question, but I probably still would if I had the knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it, man. Brandon, thank you for hopping on the podcast, man. It's been a pleasure as always. And yeah, that's it for the episode.